We begin today with climate change and President Biden's reaction to it. He's announced plans to take a series of executive measures that he says will help combat global warming after failing to secure sufficient support in Congress for the package of climate change measures that he pledged during last year's COP26 summit in Glasgow. The president's initiatives include providing $2.3 billion in funding programs to build infrastructure that can withstand extreme weather and natural disasters. In his speech, Biden called climate change an emergency, but he stopped short of declaring one.
As a scorching heat wave batters Europe and the United States, U.S. President Joe Biden unveiled new executive steps to address climate change in a visit to Massachusetts on Wednesday.
It is literally, not figuratively, a clear and present danger. The health of our citizens and our communities is literally at stake.
But Biden stopped short of declaring a federal emergency, a move many Democrats have urged. Instead, Biden announced a modest package of executive actions, but promised more aggressive efforts. Some 100 million Americans from New York City to Las Vegas will be under heat warnings this week.
Climate change is literally an existential threat to our nation and to the world.
The announcements included new funding for cooling centers and a push for new offshore wind projects in the oil-rich Gulf of Mexico.
Today, we began the process to develop wind power in the Gulf of Mexico as well for the first time. A real opportunity to power millions of additional homes from wind.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency will also provide $2.3 billion in funding to help states build cooling centers and to tackle other aspects of climate change. New funding could expand flood control, shore up utilities, retrofit buildings, and help low-income families pay for heating and cooling costs. But those actions fall short of demands by Democratic lawmakers and environmental activists who want Biden to formally declare a climate emergency, which would enable the use of the Defense Production Act to ramp up production of a wide range of renewable energy products and systems. Biden is under increasing pressure after conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin said last week he was not ready to support key climate provisions in Congress, a critical loss in the evenly divided Senate. Biden said in the coming days he'll be announcing more executive actions to combat climate change.
For more on all of this, let's cross live to WION's correspondent Susan Tehrani, who is joining us from New York City. Susan, as we've noted on other subject topics in the past, America is a democracy. There are limits to what any president can do as a result of signing executive orders. And it was notable yesterday that environmentalists certainly don't believe that these measures that President Biden is about to authorize are going to come anywhere near close to making good on the promises that he made to the rest of the world about the primacy of his climate change agenda when he was at that COP26 summit in Glasgow. There's inevitably going to be a huge gap here, isn't there?
Yes, there will be a huge gap, but many also argue that Joe Manchin once again saved the Democratic Party because the agenda that the Democrats were putting forward was also $300 billion in subsidies for renewable energy and electric cars at a time when the country is also facing skyrocketing inflation, and climate change is only 1% of Americans' concern and 3% of those who are under 30, which is supposed to be, the energized base of the country regarding climate change on the one hand. Regarding executive order, when Donald Trump wanted to use executive order to build that border wall across Mexico, the Democrats said that he was being a dictator. Apparently, dictatorship lies in the eyes of the beholder. Climate change, it would be one of those issues. However, even if President Biden goes ahead with this executive order, first of all, executive orders are reversible on the one hand, and on the other hand, lower courts can also challenge President Biden's executive order on climate change. And as you mentioned, once again, the president finds himself in a situation where he's not satisfying climate activists on the one hand, and he'll be challenged by conservatives on the other.
And Susan, can we talk briefly about the other awful news that President Biden is waking to here in Washington this morning? This new Quinnipiac University poll that shows that his approval rating has now cratered to 31%. I mean, that's Jimmy Carter territory. That's catastrophic for him and for the White House, isn't it?
Considering the fact that mostly it comes from his own party, the Democrats, he's had some symbolic successes. For example, appointing the first black woman judge to the Supreme Court is something we can talk about. But the problem is, he really doesn't have anything to help his party move and play on for the November midterm elections on the one hand. And on this other hand, it seemed as that aside from the issue of inflation and not being able to bring the country together, the Democratic Party at this point has been vocal in saying that they seem to have buyer's remorse.